The airing of the documentary has been stalled by injunctions filed by the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association. Senior police officer arrested in connection with coup plot last year finally granted bail after more than 2 months in detention. Survivor of last week's Dompase Junction fatal crash corroborates claims that victims of the accident who were lying in the middle of the road were run over by another truck.
What happened was a silly mistake. Yeah, and with patience, we avoided.
At that point, his leg, 2 legs, got broken. So,
in business,
government signs off contracts worth over £200 million with 4 UK companies at ongoing UK Africa Summit.
Now, can public funds be used to perform rituals to pacify gods? The Auditor General in this report says no, but the Public Accounts Committee disagrees with it. Right, so as I indicated earlier, the Public Accounts Committee has some disagreements with the Auditor General over the use of public funds to pacify, to perform rituals to pacify gods.
The community that demanded from the Assembly to do that. If the community had a way of doing it without the support of the Assembly, they would have done it. But the Assembly was looking at it from the economic point of view, that, oh, let's give them this for them to perform the rituals.
We'll also bring you the demonstration against the Electoral Commission's plan to install a new voter management system, including a new voters register. I'm Israel and Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News studio at Kokomlimli here in Accra with digital address GA09925339. Stay tuned in. Senior police officer arrested in connection with the coup plot last year has finally been granted bail after more than 2 months in detention. The Criminal Division of the Accra High Court granted ACP Dr. Benjamin Ogojo several self-recognizance bail in the sum of 500,000 cedis with 8 sureties. He is however to report regularly to the IGP and BNI. Joy News' Henry Kwesi Bedu sat through Tuesday's proceedings and has more in the following report.
The senior police officer has been in police custody since November 2019, accused of involvement in an alleged plan to topple the government. He has since then been denied 2 bail applications. But today, the court, presided over by His Lordship Justice Eko Baden, held that state prosecutors' allegation that ACP Ogojo will interfere with investigations and witnesses if granted bail was vague and not backed by evidence. He was granted bail in the sum of 500,000 Ghana cedis with 8 sureties. The court ruled that ACP Ogojo shall report twice in a week to the IGP for 3 months, and then after that, once in a week for another 3 months. ACP Ogojo is also to report once in a week for the next 3 months to the Director of BNI, and then once a fortnight. The passport of the officer is to be handed over to the Registrar of the High Court. ACP Ogojo, who is facing a treason charge, is alleged to have assisted the leader of alleged coup plotters, Dr. Frederick Yao Makpam, and some 8 others, including some military officers, in a plot to overthrow the Akufo-Addo administration.
The Supreme Court has given the multimedia group the all-clear to air the Missing Kilos documentary, which details pervasive theft of cocoa beans by cocoa clerks. The court on Tuesday dismissed a certiorari application filed by the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana some 2 years ago. There is more in the following report filed by Henry Kwesi Bedu.
The Supreme Court dismissed a certiorari application by the Cocoa Buyers Association of Ghana to quash a ruling against them by an Accra High Court. The application was filed in 2018, seeking to overturn a High Court decision that dismissed an earlier application for an injunction on the airing of the Missing Kilos Hotline documentary by Joy News. The documentary shows instances of fraudulent adjustment of scales in an investigative piece by Joy News' undercover reporter, Kwete Nate. The piece was due for broadcast in February 2018, but the LBCs filed a suit together with an application for an injunction on the premiering of the documentary. They claimed that the story contained unfair and unverified allegations of crime made against the companies. Speaking to Joy News, counsel for the multimedia group, Evelyn Ayenini, said although there is a pending appeal, the documentary can be aired.
There's a case at the High Court, and then the plaintiffs had filed an application for injunction against the multimedia and the other parties. Now, after the court gave its ruling on that injunction, they were not satisfied, so they followed up with an appeal to the Court of Appeal, and then on top of that, they filed an application before the Supreme Court to quash the ruling of the court below, that is the High Court. Now, today was the determination of that application before the Supreme Court, and according to the Supreme Court, the application has no merit, and so they have dismissed the application before it. Yes.
What does this mean to the case moving forward?
Well, it simply means that, one, it has been dismissed. Two, we'll go back to the Court of Appeal because the appeal is still pending, and we'll have to go back and then determine that. Then after that, the main case is also pending at the High Court, so we'll have to go back to the court below too. Yes.
Does that mean that Joy News can show the documentary?
Of course, as it is now, Joy News can, because the application has been dismissed.
The 5-member panel that threw out the case was headed by the Chief Justice, Justice Kwesi Anini-Yeboah. Henry Kwesi Bedu's report for Joy News.
All right, so I have Kwaku Osupepra here in the studio, and he's in charge of, he works on our Hotline documentaries, and he also worked on this particular one. So thank you very much, Kwaku. So you take us through some of the hurdles that this documentary has gone through.
Okay, so we're supposed to play this documentary on the 5th of February 2018. And
But it was produced in January.
Yes. So whilst we were playing the teasers and the promos, we had an injunction slapped on us to halt all the promo and all the excerpts that we were doing. We were surprised, but the case was heard at the High Court. One, they asked us they prayed the court to make sure that we do not play the documentary at all.
All right. And
also place an injunction on the furtherance of the excerpts and the promos that we were doing. When the court heard that, our lawyers also prayed the court to dismiss that case in its totality and also grant us the permission to play the documentary, as we had done a good job. These cocoa buying companies and their legal team took the case further to the appeals court. While the case was at the appeals court and the hearing was going on, they rehashed their plea and sent it to the Supreme Court, saying first of all that
even before they could exhaust the process at the appeals court.
Yes, saying that the High Court judge erred in his decision to dismiss the case and also to allow us to go ahead to play the documentary, and that it didn't have jurisdiction. So today in court, to be modest, the Supreme Court judges felt that the argument didn't make much sense to them, and so they dismissed it totally.
Right.
And asked us to have the liberty to go ahead with our documentary, because they did not think actually that the High Court didn't have jurisdiction over the case, and that they really had that jurisdiction, and the decision that was made was right and true.
All right, so what is it about this documentary that the licensed cocoa buyers find it so worrying that they don't want us to see, or the public to see?
Okay, when you go to these rural areas where cocoa is grown, the cocoa buying companies have clerks who purchase this cocoa, the cocoa from the farmers. They weigh them. There is some cartel, a certain clique that has mastered the art of adjusting the scales, so that if a cocoa farmer brought a sack of cocoa, and to his knowledge it's weigh like 50 kilograms, he brings it and
they put it on the scale.
They put it on the scale and it weighs like 35 kilograms.
Oh.
So this cocoa farmer has to go back, bring more beans to top up to the 50 kilograms. At that point, the cocoa buying companies and the clerks who are involved in this would have saved 15 kilos. So it's a major rip-off. They'll keep, rebag them. So for every 10 kilos of cocoa that is weighed at this point, they would have earned about several kilograms for themselves without any work done. So here are some of the excerpts of this documentary that Kwetenete did in January.
Is it still happening?
A mastered skill of stealing that keeps the cocoa planter poorer and the produce clerk richer.
The one thing is our skill is not that normal. At times it becomes normal, at times it comes down. So every year they do come and check our skill. That's why I'm surprised about this. So there is amounts enter into the skill and also can create that problem.
An age-old canker with purchasing clerks and license buying companies deeply involved. It appears no one wants to talk about it. The adjustment of weighing scales to fleece cocoa growers. But with the income of over 700,000 farmers at stake, someone must lift the lid of the cocoa cartel. This is because Ghana Cocoa Board has secured an amount of $1.3 billion for the purchase of cocoa beans for the 2017-2018 crop season. But the sad reality of this tale is that clerks with the state-owned cocoa buying companies are part of this ripoff. The cocoa business powers Ghana's economy. According to Cocoa Board, cocoa contributes at least $2 billion to the economy yearly. In fact, cocoa contributes 7% of Ghana's GDP. Without foreign exchange from cocoa, Ghana's economy was shriveled. Hard-working cocoa growers sweat it out to give chocolate to the world and huge revenue to the state. Unfortunately, hundreds of cocoa growers are doing badly. Many farmers live in penury and cannot even fund the education of their children.
The attorney say, if you are quiet, bottom of macro abeno, would be so, we are 65. So, the go guys also ask, if you said the CSP, and now say because I did the that's how they see. Bottom, I said to me, one bag.
No more be so more, then I am more catcher.
Obviously, Kukuna, and I took you granny area bread, you know, where I'm saying, and you shoe armor into a valley and get it in wheat. Some catcher.
Zana yet.
Ah, Umnaka. A giant is even moon, Jivia, or not in a video. I know I call on a walker, say Kuku in wheat. So, to listen to winter and dinner. Now, I fancy
never sana a how burner at the brown because school fees to ya or embashe a how burn at the brown.
How the brain say, Sabia make on many that Sabia Mikuna 4 bars. In a 4 bars in German music, I do a mina. So, Neso Cocotiana say, the Emily my Quanquina, and I'm a budget I'm here and to me and room. And Ticobasa is the problem of them. There's a so for people saying, baby Nadia, so Usi can talk where they would be.
Some cannot afford to live in decent houses, but what makes their situation worse is a cartel of cocoa produce clerks who find disingenuous ways to live off the sweat of the poor farmer. I am Kwetenete, and I am on a very important assignment to expose sneaky, crafty, devious clerks who have made it their business to steal from the poor cocoa farmer. I go undercover with weighing stones, a bag of cement, and a jute sack filled with cocoa to establish the hard truth of how defective scales are being used to cheat farmers in the Western, Eastern, and Ashanti regions. These tools have fixed weight and they are intended to expose the flaws in the weighing scales of the various license buying companies.
At first, we used to be at 5 kilos that we used to, as a laborer, used to give labours, but we decided that
All right, so Kweku, what's next with Missing Kilos?
So on Monday at 8:45 on radio on the SMS, we are going to play this documentary and have very intellectual discussions around this matter to see to it that there's some change. And then on the same Monday at 8:30 on the Joy News Prime, we are going to show this.
Okay, thank you very much, Kweku Ousufepra. So for your information, Missing Kilos is airing on Monday, next Monday at 8:30 p.m. right here on the Joy News channel. Stay tuned in, we'll be back in a bit. The Bremang Esikuma Municipal Assembly has justified the use of public funds to pacify deities residents of Bremang, Benin feared had cast a spell on a newly constructed market in the town. This was after the residents refused to patronize the market, believing they would die unless the gods are pacified. The assembly subsequently allocated an undisclosed amount of money to be spent on liquor and other items for a ritual. Though the Auditor General flagged it in his report, Municipal Chief Executive Isaac Odum told Parliament's Public Accounts Committee Tuesday the Assembly was left with no choice.
The people said they are not going to use the place simply because they are afraid to use it. And the Assembly need to pacify the gods.
What exactly were they afraid of?
The reason why they are afraid of, that one I cannot pinpoint, but what I heard was that when you go there, you may die. When you go to sell in the market, you may die. So as a result of that, they actually informed the Assembly to pacify the gods, which we've done, and prayer to us said. And it has actually allowed them to go in there, and the market is working.
What form did the pacification of the gods take?
No, they have a traditional person in the community, and items were bought for them or him to pacify the gods with.
What sort of items?
Oh, they are a lamp and a snap.
Now, Chairman of Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, James Kluche Aveji, agrees the Assembly acted appropriately.
1,000 or 2,000 to pour libation in order to use a market that will bring more revenue to the Assembly. Then I don't think we will be fair to the Assembly. I think that what they have done, it could be used as one of the support that they give to communities. Okay, so I think it's okay.
For use of religious belief, shouldn't it be led to the individuals and the communities on their own to do?
It's the community that demanded from the Assembly to do that. If the community had a way of doing it without the support of the Assembly, they would have done it. But the Assembly was looking at it from the economic point of view, that, oh, let's give them this for them to perform the rituals. Then the market can be used, and we can also go and collect our tolls and make more revenue. Yeah.
In a related development, the committee has been criticized by one of its members, Alexander Apenyo Markings, over Monday's decision to cause the arrest of two finance officers who appeared before it. The Futu MP describes it as a bad precedent under the country's criminal jurisprudence. But Mr. Veji says Apenyo Markings' criticism of the decision is uninformed, as he has been an absentee member.
I don't think that he is the only lawyer in Ghana. Unfortunately, he is a member of this committee. If he had been attending committee meetings, definitely he would have understood why we took that decision. I blame him for taking that position because he's been absent without any permission for attending the committee meetings. So let's leave him alone. He's the only person who is against the bold decision that we have taken. If we want to fight corruption in this country, and we don't want to begin from somewhere, then let's wash our hands and forget it. We need to work it. We are a committee of Parliament, and we have taken the people through swearing in. They took an oath to speak the truth. And during the course of our work, we realized that they were not telling the truth. presenting forged documents to deceive the committee. And we have made a report. We don't have power to do that. It's unfortunate.
A survivor of last week Tuesday's accident at Dompase on the Cape Coast Takoradi Highway, Charles Osei, has described as a silly mistake the crash which claimed 34 lives. Charles, who is seeking medical care at the La Paz Community Hospital, says one of his colleagues, who was also a victim, is unable to walk. He corroborated claims that another truck ran over some of the victims who were lying on the street after the accident. Maxwell Agwagba has more.
Over 2,000 breadwinners, dependents, and future leaders died in road accidents last year in Ghana. We've started a new year, but it looks like the situation has not changed. I'm here at the La Paz Community Hospital to meet Charles Osei. Charles is an advertiser and is a survivor of last week's Accra Cape Coast Highway accident. He was traveling together with 3 of his colleagues from Takoradi to Accra when they were involved in the accident. He came out with blood oozing from his nose and his mouth.
Like I was asleep a little bit, but when I saw the sound, I just opened my eyes. Within the minute, the incident happened. Yeah, so I saw it within 1 minute, and I couldn't do anything. So what I realized, I saw blood coming from my nose and my mouth, and I was under the seat. Yeah, that's what I saw it.
Was he overtaking or that overtaking?
Yeah. The red bus was overtaking. He crashed our bus.
He crashed your bus?
Yeah.
So tell me, that moment when he crashed your bus, what exactly happened in the bus? You were inside, you were conscious. What happened at that moment inside? Were people screaming? Were people
Yeah. There was a sound, screaming, a whole lot of fighting. Each and everyone want to come out to save him or herself. So I was calling my boys. Yeah, I was calling them. Yeah. After I saw we are safe, so we just step out, and that we all. But I saw many people blood, and so like 10 minutes later, I started showing the dead bodies and stuff. What happened was a silly mistake. Yeah. And with patience, we avoided. Well, it's a silly overtaking. Also, because there was a blood through my nose and my mouth. So after the 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I saw a whole lot of things.
I'm sure at that point, the 3 people you were traveling with, you started looking for them.
Yes.
Who are these 3 people you were traveling with?
Setopon, we normally call him Odenchem, and Edubuahin, that's Gab, and Amufa. Yeah, that's my boys.
They're your boys?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you got out, you started looking for them.
Yes.
Where are they now, the 3 of them?
One is still at a critical point. His leg, 2 legs got broken, so he's in treatment now. But 2 of them, they are okay now.
The 2 of them are okay?
Yeah, they are okay.
So they are at home?
Yeah, they are home.
Okay. But one of them has his legs?
Yeah. So he had a treatment now.
Is he able to walk?
No.
Wow.
No, he can't walk.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when the incident happened, when you came out of the car, and we hear reports that there was another car that ran over people who were, the accident victims who were lying on the streets. Did you see anything like that?
Yeah. Even I was the one the car was chasing. Well, I just saw the car coming. We ran like 2 minutes and passed to the bush. So the car was chasing that tipper truck. So I saw that he knocked some guy down.
And he killed him?
Yeah, even my boys was even crying. It was before knocked down. Yeah, but so they later saw me coming from the bush, and he says it's not me. Yeah.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. The demonstration against the Electoral Commission's plan to install a new voter management system, including a new voters register. And then in business, Gavin signs of contracts worth over £200 million with 4 UK companies at ongoing UK-Africa Investment Summit. Stay tuned in, we'll be back in a bit. Right, so Sandra has joined me and means it's time for business.
Of course, yes. And we've been signing a lot of contracts back in the UK. The most important question is, wasn't this for we Ghanaians?
Sure.
We'll try and talk to the expert on this.
Okay, well, here you are.
All right. Hello, I am Sandra Esinamap, and I'm here for business. President Akufo-Addo has expressed confidence the operations of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement this year will boost intra-regional trade among the 50 countries working for a common purpose and their interests. He was speaking at the ongoing UK African Investment Summit hosted by the UK government to support job creation on the continent and stronger partnership between the UK and Africa post-Brexit.
The theme chosen for this event is relevant and sums up the current aspirations of Ghana and Africa. Accessing the African common market through Ghana, technology, digitization, and industrialization. Ladies and gentlemen, when I accepted the responsibility on behalf of the government and people of Ghana to host in Accra the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, it signaled the completion of the processes to create the world's largest free trade area since the formation of the World Trade Organization. We expect the Secretariat to be up and running by March 2020 for trading to begin in the free trade area by July this year. It also reiterated the desire of the 54 African member states of the African Union that had signed the agreement for the coming into effect of the AFCFTA to work with a common voice and a common purpose to exploit the abundant wealth and resources of our great continent for the benefit of the African peoples. We know that the success of the AFCFTA would mean that the era of low volumes of intra-regional trade that have defined the activities of African economies will come to an end. Up till now, trade between African nations has remained low compared to other parts of the world.
According to the Department for International Development and Department for International Trade, about 27 deals worth over £6.5 billion have so far been signed from across Africa markets at the 2020 Africa-UK Summit. Over £36 billion worth of trade is already happening between the UK and Africa. Out of the 27 deals, Ghana has so far signed 4 of the deals, and here they are. We'll take a look at those deals on your screens right now. And then we have the Aqua Africa. It's a £26 million export contract to supply solar power water filtration system. We have also the BHM as a £80.3 million worth for the Tema Aflau Road project. And then the other 2 coming up is a construction contract worth £40 million export contract to develop the Kumasi Airport, and then Telium and Ellipse, an export contract worth over £60 million to provide 250 new beds for the General Hospital in Koforidua. So we still want to stay on these developments, and Apia Kusi Adomako is a regional coordinator of CART, a non-profit research and advocacy public policy think tank. He joins me via Skype to stay more on this development. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Of course, we know that these deals, it's supposed to help boost our economy and also some development projects. But it looks like it's more of a benefit to the UK because, of course, when they come to work, the money will go back into their country. So the question is, on the surface, wasn't this for Ghana?
Thank you very much. Good evening, Sandra, and your viewers this evening. I think looking at the trade deals that were signed in London yesterday, I think it seemed to be a one-way traffic that tends to go to the advantage of the British businesses. There is nothing in for the Ghanaian private sector. And so equally what we would have expected from His Excellency the President was that perhaps before going for this summit, he was supposed to have also profiled Ghanaian businesses and marked them with the British counterpart so that equally Ghana could have also signed a deal with the British businesses. Because per this particular agreement, we end up paying them. And all the forex that we are talking about will go back to the UK. But if we've also found a way of bringing Ghanaian businesses to UK, that could have also helped create jobs for Ghanaian private sector.
I'm sorry, I don't know the fine details of this contract yet. It's too early for that. Of course, we'll be talking about issues with local content and how the Ghanaians stand to benefit. So we cannot go into details of that. But one critical issue for me has to do with the contract for the work to be done on the Kumasi airport. There's been this forth and back about the Kumasi airport where the previous government cut a sword for some work to be done. Current government also did some sort of work currently ongoing. So one would have thought, and some critics have also said that maybe a new contract from the UK towards the Kumasi airport is not necessary when we have sectors like, or policies like the one district, one factory, for instance, suffering. So we should be looking towards that direction. Do you share that view?
Yes, I also share that view. Let me say, before I continue, I think a lot of money have been spent on the Kumasi airport from the previous administration. And if you look at the volume of work that have been done, it doesn't even match up with whatever has been spent. I think we've been spending so much money on the airport without getting value for our satisfaction. So I think we need to ask the relevant questions. What is wrong with Kumasi Airport that so much monies have gone into the project, but yet it's still at its current state beyond the tarmac that we saw in 2016? But for me, I think what is required is the structural transformation of the economy. As transport sector is good, but then we know that it carries less than 5% of the total passenger traffic. So such investments supposed to have gone into the real sector of the economy where it can create jobs to the grassroots, that our farmers in the villages will be able to get something for their
quickly before, quickly before I let go of you, in the future, yes, this is the second time we are having such a summit. In the future, do we need to restructure so that when we are going, instead of not to go into politics, but having a lot of government delegates following, we have a heavy representation from the private sector so they can make deals when they go?
Yes, I think this is one thing that's also missing from we've seen in Ghana whenever president travels. Elsewhere, when the president is traveling, the president takes the private sector to go and broker deals and bring businesses home. But in our part of the country, where we don't have the details of those who accompany the president, but I think that the trade ministry could have also mapped out the private sector that we need to showcase them to the British businesses so that they can also get partners over there and thereby creating contracts for Ghana.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Appiah Kusi. We are grateful for your time. Meanwhile, Managing Director of Morgan Stanley, Mr. Quist, has impressed on women in the business space to consider investing in Ghana as the Continental Free Trade Agreement kickstarts. She was speaking on the topic creating an investment-friendly climate at the ongoing Ghana Opportunity and Investment Summit in London.
But if you look at, not just in the region, but actually globally, we have the highest proportion of women-run businesses. So there is something about Ghana that makes it an attractive location and it makes it good for women to start businesses there. By extension, hopefully some young people as well. So if I switch over to thinking about more smaller businesses, younger businesses, businesses that are trying to get into the Africa region, then I'd like to hope that with us being the host country, we will attract more women and young people who want to set up their businesses to serve the region to come to Ghana, which is a big plus, because if women can come to Ghana and find a community, a society of women who will encourage and support their businesses and they grow from there, that's a big plus. And I think we should not lose sight of the need to be inclusive in our discussions.
On that note, we end the first part of business. Thanks so much for watching. I am Sandra Esinamap, and I'm back after 8 p.m. with more business news.
Now, Ghana has taken yet another step towards the addition of nuclear power to the country's energy mix. Nuclear Power Ghana, which was established 2 years ago to work towards the objective, on Tuesday announced it is ready to hand over to Cabinet a comprehensive plan. Nuclear power, according to MPG, will provide an even cheaper alternative to hydroelectric power, currently Ghana's cheapest source of electricity. Speaking on the sidelines of a review mission by the International Atomic Energy Agency, IEA, to Ghana, Executive Director of MPG, Engineer Theo Ni Okaim, argued the current cost of electricity is way too high.
There is a document that is going to government, and that would enable government to say, right, now go ahead. Okay, we call it the PCR, Program Comprehensive Report. And so that would get to government this month, and then we would officially move on into phase 2. Each phase, you go through 19 infrastructure issues. What it means is that Ghana is positioning itself to be able to generate very reliable power, low carbon power at very low cost. Nuclear is the cheapest as far as per unit cost of electricity. Now, if your cost of energy is relatively high, development will be stunted. And currently our cost of energy is way too high. We should be able to switch on a nuclear power plant by 2030. So 10 years from now.
Speaking at the same event, nuclear power consultant Ross Rednor said the convenience of better energy sources under the nuclear plant will also yield economic development.
It will be refined and continue to be developed as you move along to phase 2 and phase 3, but very good job so far. Nuclear power has many benefits to any country that wants to develop a commercial nuclear industry. It's a high-tech industry with some really interesting technologies that go into nuclear power plants. In addition to safe, reliable baseload power, which is needed to help any country grow their economy. So you'll get that with nuclear power. The secondary benefits are the spillover effects from having a nuclear industry in your country. You'll see improvements in quality in many different areas that support the nuclear program, improvements in training, a level of sophistication that will grow over time that will overall help Ghana continue to grow their economy for this and future generations.
Now, the coalition of opposition political parties have suspended a series of demonstrations and issued a one-week ultimatum to the Eminent Advisory Committee to get the EC to back down on its decision to compile a new voters register. That's the big announcement from the chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, on behalf of the inter-party resistance against a new voters register at the end of Tuesday's demonstration in Kumasi, dubbed Yempene. They're calling off the protest to get the EC to bow to their pressure and suspend their plans until the EC carries out the Eminent Advisory Committee's directive to consult further. Hundreds of protesters joined the inter-party resistance against the new voters register and hit the streets of Kumasi in protest. Clad in red, the protesters, led by leaders of the NDC, APC, PNC, among others, held placards, some of which read, "Pay striking teachers, don't waste the money on needless register in Nanado. We still need more hospitals, roads, schools, electricity and potable water in our communities. Law firm's Erastus Asarodonko followed the demonstrators and has filed this report.
The demonstrators started trickling in at dawn at the Abuabo School Park. By 8 a.m., the park was filled with a sizable number of people. Then the placards arrived with messages that summed up the objectives of the protest. They want the Electoral Commission to back down on its decision to create a new voters register and use the budgeted funds to ease the lives of Ghanaians. A number of personalities joined hands. They included some members of parliament, leaders of political groupings and parties, and leadership of the National Democratic Congress. They passed through principal streets of Kumasi, Alaba, Ashtown, Imbrom, Kejitia, Pampaso, Edum, and Asafo-Leba. The protest was full of drama. Occasional stops which saw leaders sitting on the ground and wailing. Finally, they converged at the Jubilee Park, where speakers Asiedun Kitia, NDC Chairman Ofusu Ampofo, and Bernard Mona of the PNC, among others, addressed the crowd.
The NDC, together with the other parties now, you form coalition, and the civil society for no. We will suspend our demonstration and wait on the eminent personalities, traditional authorities. Nananuma yemfuna asofo mpanifua wado anwano atum no ne yahwe kwan se yemami jemensa ene ne commission no ebetie ne omo ka no na ye nyina sinkonwa ne yahwe kwan befa so a yebetimi atoto nioma ama Ghana afa de ntoma papa afra.
Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asarodonko, Kumasi.
Fuel depots are yet to comply with the directive issued by the National Petroleum Authority to reduce the temperature at the loading bays to 20 degrees Celsius. This, according to the Oil Marketing Companies and Tanker Drivers Union, is causing them financial loss and are charging the NPA to ensure strict compliance to that directive by the depots. The NPA in November 2019 held a meeting between all the stakeholders to address concerns raised by tanker drivers and the oil marketing companies of the continuous shortage of petroleum products when discharged into the underground tanks. The NPA put a loss control team together to resolve this issue affecting the numerous fuel stations and dealers across the countries. But depots continue to deliver products to dealers and fuel stations at between 28 and 32 degrees Celsius, which leaves losses in the system. The oil marketing companies say they simply cannot take it anymore. Speaking with my colleague Emmanuel Ante, the president of the oil marketing companies, Commodore Mensah, charged the NPA to ensure compliance by the fuel depots.
We've been expecting the depots to comply. Unfortunately, they are dragging their feet. And meanwhile, we, the retailers, we are being shortchanged in the process. What does this mean? By international standards, fuels are loaded at 15 degrees. But by the time they are loading, they load some at 30 degrees Celsius. When this product gets to us and we put it in the underground tank, the temperature drops, and of course, the volume also drops. In the past, we were blaming the tanker drivers for under-delivering. But the NPA, being the regulator of the industry, thought it wise to come out with this revision in the manual, asking the depots to load at 20, so that if there will be, by the time we get, we will not have any problem. As to why the depot keepers are dragging their feet, I don't know. But let me say that there's a limit to the endurance of my people. We, the retailers, cannot continue to suffer these losses. You are talking of money. You are talking of money. You are talking of money. And if they are losing, some of them will be tempted to do things which will not be satisfactory to break even. So please, the depots, if they are listening to me, let them comply with the NPA directive. The NPA should crack the whip. The NPA should crack the whip and force the depots to comply. The manual is a law now. It's a legislative instrument. So you and I do not have the option of not complying. If it were any OMC, any retailer that has infringed on the rules, I'm sure by now the NPA would have descended on us heavily. But why they are not able to do it, I don't know.
Tanker Drivers Union, led by their union chairman, Georgiano, are threatening to boycott fuel depots in the coming days if they fail to comply with the directive to reduce the loading pressure at depots to 20 degrees Celsius. This threat, if carried through, may result in fuel shortage at the pumps and cause loss of revenue to the state and an inconvenience to the general public.
Looking forward that any of the depots who can comply, who started complying, will start loading from them. So the depots are many now, it's competitive. So if you are not able to comply, and then even if you are not doing it, you don't have the loading compensating meter, and you cannot convert it, okay, to 20 degrees, that means the drivers will not come to your depot and load. Once it's a national issue, okay, given by instruction given by the authority, that all the stakeholders should comply. If they are not complying, that means you are not ready to serve. So we will not come and load from your depot to go and discharge at a loss, this short level. If they don't, then we will stop loading from the depots. That means the country will run as loss. So we don't want that to happen. Everybody is looking at drivers as thieves, and we are siphoning. But the depots are giving us short delivery. All right, because you can't receive the product into the country at a temperature of 15 degrees Celsius and then loaded us at 32, 34, 30. And these are the things that we are complaining way back. And today it has come. And the regulator realized that what we are saying is true. All right, and then they have implemented it that all of us should use as stakeholders. So it's up to the depots to wake up and then comply. If they don't, for that matter, I can assure you, yes. If they don't, then we advise ourselves, because we can't continue losing our drivers, our trained drivers in the industry just like that. No. Yes, the injustices that I think our drivers has gone through is our transporters, they bought the truck for us, all right? So they don't drive the truck, we drive the truck. So after every delivery, if there's a shortage, okay, the OMC that we loaded from bill the shortage against the transporter. Then the transporter also bill you, the driver who drive the truck, okay? And that is the injustice. Sometimes the transporter, for instance, I have a Webi here. I have an invoice here, which shows that there's shortage of 350 liters. So local, that is Accra. So these 350 liters, when it is calculated in liters, is amounted to 1,800 and something Ghana cedis. That is one trip. All right, and the driver's salary at the end of the month is 1,700. So assuming the driver made a trip of 4 in a month with these shortages by 4, all right, and you are earning 1,700. So apparently the transporter will arrest you. He will take you to police station, and those are the victims that our drivers have been falling into it. You get the point. And then we want to stay away from all those things.
The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, is also threatening a lawsuit against the depots if they fail to comply by the end of the week. Here's the Executive Director, Duncan Amoah.
We are very much appalled
by the way the depots are actually treating the dealers. And as you probably are rightfully aware, once these dealers don't get the right quantity of supplies and they are shortchanged, then you leave some of them very little option but to play all kinds of games with the consumer or the end user. And so we think that once the NPA Loss Control Manual says move to 20 degrees and convert everything you load to 20 degrees so you bill them for it, I think it is the right way to go. I do not know why the depots would at this point continue to flout that instruction by the NPA. And then again, once this is not being carried through, we do know that some of these depots are making as much as, hundreds of thousands of Ghana cedis every single day. If you put them together, you are looking at in excess of 100,000 Ghana, 1 million almost every single day in savings they make from this temperature conversion. We are saying that if every 10-degree variance is 1% product, and at the end of the month, Ghana would have consumed about 340 million, 350 million. Look at 1% of 340, 350 million. That's about 3.4, 3.5 million worth of products. If you multiply that by the current market figures, you're looking at almost 20, 30 million Ghana cedis that is being left at these depots. And we think that the dealers cannot continue to bear these costs. At the end of the day, they are forced to pass it on to the unsuspecting customer. And we think that the NPA should move in quickly and ensure that this directive is complied with immediately. A week after, nothing is being done.
So if nothing is done, what next?
Once the Loss Control Manual is clear, we'll be forced to take these depots on to court. Because what it means is that pressure on one side would invariably end up with a trotro driver who probably doesn't have any idea, would end up with the unsuspecting public. And so we think that once the NPA Loss Control Manual is clear and explicit, that convert everything to 20 degrees whilst delivering or serving these dealers, make sure you just do, that you're able to supply the mines at 15 degrees. That you have no problem with. Supply dealers at 20, you are failing to comply. That clearly cannot be allowed to continue. And we are saying that if by close of this week, we do not get any indication that they have done so, we'll drag all of them to court for stealing from all of us.
Senior Minister Yaw Osafo-Maafo has cited the Auditor General Daniel Yaw-Domelovo for contempt over the $1 million Kroll payment surcharge. Osafo-Maafo and 4 other applicants who are officials of the Ministry of Finance had sued Mr. Domelovo. The senior minister therefore wants an order committing the respondent to prison, or in the alternative for the imposition of any other punishment that this honourable court may deem just and proper upon the grounds contained in the accompanying affidavit in support. 2 consequential orders, including the setting aside of the respondent, said impugned decision against the applicant. 3, any other or further orders that the honourable court will deem fit. Now, let me give you some background on the issue. The senior minister Yaw Osafo-Maafo was surcharged $1 million over an agreement with a foreign company without allegedly following due process. The Auditor General revealed on Joy FM Super Morning Show in November, the senior minister had 60 days to go to court to seek an order setting aside his surcharge.
Giving me assurance that the work is being done and they are doing work for you is not what we were looking for. What we were looking for is evidence that work has been done. That is one. And if you saw the letter which they have published on the web, which shows their intention to disallow and surcharge, you will see that we were asking for some other information. Because Kroll and Associates is a foreign company. Article 181 of the Constitution, Clause 5, provides that it requires parliamentary approval for you to go into such contracts. We are waiting for that parliamentary approval to come. Then we also stated that we don't think they follow the procurement process. If you look, I saw a document that you circulated on Joy FM, which is purported approval from Public Procurement Authority. If you look at that approval, it was given on the 14th of November 2017. The contract was signed on 26th of September 2017, 2 months later, before the approval was given. So the contract had already been signed, and invoices were issued earlier than the contract date. Okay? And if you, I don't know why Ghanaians don't read critically. If you read that letter, you will see that the approval was given by the management of PPA, not the board. Section 40 of the Public Procurement Act says the board, not management. But it is management who gave the approval. And the approval was given to National Security Secretariat, not senior minister. So there are a whole lot of questions unanswered about that, which we thought they will have come clear of it, and they have not come. As a result of which I've issued a surcharge. So I've issued a surcharge against the senior minister that he should pay the money back into government coffers.
Now, Yao Pong, who's lawyer for the senior minister, explains why they are citing the Auditor General for contempt.
As you rightly said, sometime last year, they were informed, and I think this was also well published by the media, that the Auditor General has surcharged them, which means in plain terms that they were to pay an amount which is quite huge to the state, because in the view of the Auditor General, they had paid this money or caused the money to be paid to a company that, according to him, the Auditor General, had not performed any work for the country, and therefore they had to refund the amount to the state. The court over the years have also recognized that these rights are rights that are remediable in court. And so the Rules of Court Committee and those who have the power to make laws have made laws in relation to this. So what it is that if you are dissatisfied or aggrieved by that decision, as you rightly said, the law is that you have 50 days within which to file an appeal at the High Court. So my clients did exactly that. On 11 December 2019, if I remember, they filed a notice of appeal and attached all the documents that they wish to rely on. The law is that when it is filed, it must be served on the Auditor General, who has 14 days after the service to file a reply, and all the documents on which he based the decision for disallowance and surcharge. Then, in a very peculiar way, the law goes on to say that if the Auditor General is served and refuses to file these documents, the Auditor General has committed, or that conduct constitutes contempt of the High Court. This is what the law says, and this is our understanding. So, Mr. Safamafo and his friends, in fact, even waited for a month to file a set of questions, which we call a search at the court, to ascertain whether the Auditor General was served. They said yes, he has been served since 13 December 2019, and whether he has complied with the law to file the document. They said no. So without that, the case itself cannot move on. So Safamafo and his friends now have to also obey the law by filing the appropriate application.
The chairman of the Sicily Union in the one municipality of the Upper West Region, Brahima Issa Balu, has called on government to, as a matter of urgency, stop the illegal felling of economic trees like Share and Dawadawa in the Sicily area for commercial charcoal production. He said with the indiscriminate felling of rosewood in the enclave dealt with, the focus has now shifted to other economic trees, which he noted is leading to the destruction of the vegetative cover of the Sicily area in the Upper West region. Brahima Issa Balu made the call in a speech read on his behalf at the biennial meeting of the union held in Wa. Rafiq Salam has more.
The biennial meeting of members of the Sicily Union in the Wa municipality of the Upper West region was held on the theme Fostering Unity, Better Relationship and Togetherness, a tool for union strength. It was attended by members of the union in the Wa municipality and other sister unions aim to reshape and reflect on future strategies to improve upon their unity and togetherness of all Sisales and other sister unions in the Wa municipality. Chairman of the Wa Sisala Union, Brahma Issa Balu, in a speech read on his behalf by his vice, Ismail Mada, commended the government for instituting measures which led to the reduction of indiscriminate cutting and transporting of rosewood from the Sisala areas to the southern belt of the country for export. His concern, however, is on the illegal felling of economic trees like shea and dawadawa for commercial charcoal production, which he said is destroying the vegetative cover of the Sisala enclave.
The economic trees like the shea and dawadawa trees are the ones that are now unscrupulously, people are now felling for charcoal production. The rosewood harvesting has abated a little since we no more see the big trucks carrying them away. What we now see is charcoal trucks. Our environment is being depleted at a faster rate in the Sisala land. And we must all join hands to halt this menace by stepping up awareness creation of the dangers of environmental degradation and its destruction of the environment in our Sisala land.
He is also not happy of the state of roads in the Sisala enclave and the increasing cases of child marriages and teenage pregnancies.
Let's keep them in school and stop giving them up for early marriages. Teenage pregnancy should not be entertained at all. The BEC results of our children is nothing to boast of. And all of us should join hands in whatever way to improve it.
Deputy Apawas Regional Minister, who was represented by the Dafema Bure Issa District Chief Executive, Nadi Morosanda, appealed for more support from the people to halt the illegal felling of economic trees.
Cutting of the rosewood cannot be stopped by government alone. All of us collectively need to fight this canker together. And for this reason, when we go back homes also, it is important that we educate our brothers, we educate the landlords who readily gives out land for such activities to take place to desist from it.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
And that's it. I am Israel. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.